Now let's get speaking with our guest for tonight. It's still about River State tonight, and as it stands, all is definitely not well with the political climate in that state. And as bad as it is, no one can ascertain what may happen in the next minutes going by. The kinds of events that have unfolded in the last 24 hours. And by the last count, 8 executive members of the state cabinet have resigned from the Fubara government, citing different reasons. And there are calls for President Bola Tinubu to intervene one more time. So let's get speaking with Senator Shehu Sani, who is our guest for tonight, a former senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, civil rights activist, author, and Pan-Africanist. Senator, good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Right. So I think we should start this conversation by going over your tweet on this matter. In your opinion, you said presidential intervention failed to bring peace to River State. Everything is now left to God, Godfather, and Godson. So let me ask, in this situation where it does look like the Godfather and the Godson are not ready to settle, and the River State House of Assembly has remained factionalized since October. What do you make of it?
First of all, my views is the views of an outsider. I'm not from River State. And what I will say is informed by the information at the public domain. First of all, what we are seeing in River State is not new as far as the political spectrum of Nigeria is concerned. There has been cases in the last 24 years where you have crisis and conflict between Godson and Godfather. And now, what we have seen in River State is the continuation of that kind of conflict. It happened in Kano, it happened in Enugu, and some states in the last 24 years. Now, going by what is happening in River State, it's clear that the crisis may escalate beyond where it is today, because in the last few weeks, we have seen the president intervening and mediating between Sim and Wike, and that intervention failed to resolve the problem. And now, the failure of that intervention means that it is now left for the two political leaders in River State to slug it out. From what we have seen, going by the history, Wike has done a commendable job by, first of all, picking somebody from the Ijo ethnic nationality for the first time in 24 years and making him a governor of the state. That's very commendable. But secondly, now that there is a problem, any attempt to remove that governor, there will certainly put that state in more trouble than it is today. We have seen the members of State House of Assembly factionalized, and commissioners are resigning. It means the state is divided. And what is needed now, actually, is still the president. He's a political leader, he's the leader of the country. He still has to invite the two persons, including the members of the State House of Assembly, to resolve this matter. Because from the reports we are having, the demolition of the State House of Assembly and the fact that the two factions are conducting their own sitting separately shows that if there is no intervention, that state will prolong its crisis to 2027. And as important as that state to the economic live wire of this country, it shouldn't be left to a problem. The governor of the state is the chief executive, even though Wike has supported him and has did everything possible for him to be there. He should be given the necessary respect he deserves. The resignation, the defection of members of the State House of Assembly from the PDP to APC, everyone knows it, it's very clear as lawmakers. It's illegal, it's unlawful to do that. The Supreme Court has made a pronouncement on that. But there should be a political solution to this problem. The interests of the people of Rivers should be the paramount importance of the two persons. and the stability of the people of the river state should be of importance to the two persons. They should sit down and address this problem. But it has been the case. Each time you have a godfather bringing in his godson as a governor of the state, the basic qualification is simply loyalty. And that loyalty means complete submission and surrender. And the complaints that have been coming from Rivers was that the former minister was the one who wrote the name of the commissioners, the advisors, and contracts were all given and signed before he left. And so many of these things here. So the governor simply sat like a stooge. And it has always been the case. In the case of Enugu, we have seen it. Chimaroke versus Jim Nwobodo, and then Sylvian Chime versus Chimaroke, and other states it still happen. But now, Rivers is not just an ordinary state. It's a state that occupies an important place in the economy and the political spectrum of Nigeria, and it should not be left. The president should not fold his arms. He should still invite them to see how, for the second time, the issue can be resolved. Because if it's not resolved, certainly it may go beyond this point, and it's not going to be in the interest of the state and that of the country.
All right. I mean, despite all odds, the governor has gone ahead to present the 2024 budget to the four-man faction, which has now been signed. How justified will you view this?
Well, you see, Nyesom Wike is a strong political factor in the history of Nigeria today. And I know a little bit of him. He is someone who is always determined to pursue his cause without fear. And what he wants to achieve, he will do it relentlessly. And he did that by bringing in SIM, and doing everything possible, deploying the state and his energy and everything at stake to make him the governor of the state. But having been able to achieve that, the next thing to do is to give that governor the free hand to run the state if you believe that he is competent, he is capable, and he is someone that shares your own vision. So that is where the problems always comes. The factionalization of the State House of Assembly will certainly stagnate the affairs of governance. And if he does that, it is the state that will suffer. So the two persons, the minister and the governor, really need to understand that if this war continue at this phase, it's their own people that will suffer. And if they are fighting, if their war, if their battle is about the soul of the state, it's about the people of the state, then they should lower their ego and address the problem. I don't know much about SIM, but I know about Wike, and from information we have had in the ground, he is a protege, he is a godson. Wike should know that the tactics, the strategy he has always applied, his own godson has also mastered it, and then now is the return fire. So sometimes when you are choosing a successor, you must go beyond the issue of loyalty, because political loyalty can change within a minute. And control of rivers should not simply be about control of the resources of rivers, control of the people of rivers, but it should be about governance in the state. And the two persons need to know that the more they keep on sustaining this battle, the more their people are going to continue to suffer.
Right. Senator, let's get to one critical concern that has been raised in all of this crisis, which is the issue of quorum by the four lawmakers. What should happen, in your opinion, what should happen to decisions made by them?
Well, you have to look at it from both sides. First of all, the 4 or 5 legislators don't make a quorum, but also the ones that make a quorum have also breached the law by defecting. So if 27 persons defected from PDP to APC, that is against the law, and by the law it means their seats are vacant. And now it is between a vacant seat and an assembly that doesn't form a quorum. So I said in the whole of this is that it's better for the president, being the leader of the country, actually, to bring these people together and resolve this problem once and for all. Wike should be accorded his respect as a political leader in the state, one that has worked hard against all odds to bring the governor. And the governor should also be given the opportunity to preside over the affairs of the state and govern his people and demonstrate that competence which the minister said he has as an asset. So I think this is it. The 4 members don't form a quorum, and what they did and what they are doing is unlawful. And the ones that form a quorum, seats are also vacant by leaving one party to another. So you see, if you look at both sides, you see you have problems. And the only way to solve it is through dialogue, which will be hosted by nobody else but Mr. President. If not, things are going to get worse.
Right, but Senator, the 27 lawmakers who defected have said their decisions to defect is backed by law, which says that they can defect to another party if there is some division in their party. What do you say to that?
You see, I read that there was defections from both the PDP and members of Labour Party. There was no division in the PDP. There is a national chairman, and even in the state, the party was not factionalized. It's still one chairman, so there was no division. So there was no division in PDP. That's a fact of the matter. And the 4 legislators there who are on the side of the governor also don't form a quorum. If we drag on like this, commissioners resigning, and there is doubt on the credibility of both factions in the State House of Assembly, then we are simply nowhere as far as solving the problem of Rivers is concerned. There is no division. What they did is virtually against the law. Though many of us, when we were in the National Assembly, we defected, but the law was very clear on that. There was division at that time, but now there is virtually no division in PDP. So for them to have justified that. But I believe that this problem can better be solved through dialogue.
Now, while the faction loyal to Governor Wike sits in the government house, those loyal to Wike use the assembly quarters for sitting. What's the validity of this?
Well, you see, the assembly is the people, is the elected members. They are the assembly. But for the fact that if they had anything to do, the 27 members could have sit anywhere without defection, because they are still members of State House of Assembly. They are still members, legitimate members of the State House of Assembly. So their own dark area is the fact that they defected, but they can sit. Though in the past there have been cases where maize is stolen as a strategy of stagnating the activities of State Assembly. And there are cases where also roof was removed, as in the case of Edo State. But this one is novel, demolishing a whole State House of Assembly. It has not happened in the recent history of our democracy. And I think that is a major problem. But governors have always adopted that strategy. And I think the State House of Assembly are paying the price for their own failures, personal failures and mistakes. There was a time where they had the opportunity to pass the bill for autonomy for State House of Assembly. Many of them committed that suicide by voting against themselves and voting to remain in handout on the side of the governors. And today they are proposing to have that autonomy which they deny themselves. So if we are going to get this democracy right, I think the very need to give that independence, that autonomy to State House of Assembly so that they will be able to conduct their affair. Same strategy of demolishing the State Assembly is simply to prevent an impeachment, which at a certain time was done in Edo State. which also at a certain time in the history of Nigeria's democracy, that 24 years, maize were stolen to prevent impeachment. Well, it is his own strategy. But on the other side, they also need to understand that if they have to conduct their own action, if they are going to proceed with what they want to do, they also have to do it on a moral and legal high ground, which of course there's a problem with that as far as the side of 27 is concerned. And 4 people receiving a budget from the state governor and also the governor passing it shows how comical the whole problem is turning into. So it's a tragic comedy we're having in Rivers State.
Right. But as a former member of the Senate, what do you think is the overall implication of all these?
Well, first of all, I would have loved a situation where the Senate President, Akpabio, can form a bicameral committee made up of members of the PDP and APC to invite the state's members of House of Assembly to Abuja and then see how they can resolve that problem. And then the president also can do his own by inviting the 2 gladiators, Wike, the minister, and Sim, the governor, and still see how they can. Because if you look at the tune of the governor, he still have respect for the Wike as a governor, with all he's been resisting in terms of coming out all to fight. That is very clear. And if you look at the governor himself too, he has put so much in stake for that state, and he has done a tremendous good job by making sure that at least in history of the state, someone from the ethnic Ijaw nationality has emerged as a governor. That's a commendable thing to do. But to remove him using such kind of strategy is virtually wrong. So both sides have their own negative areas, and I believe these are the areas which need to be cleaned during negotiation in terms of being hosted by the president to solve the problem.
Right. I would like us to go back to this legislative confusion in Rivers State, because both factions are holding on to different orders from different courts. One faction is relying on the ex parte order of a state high court. The other is relying on the order of a federal high court, saying that status quo be maintained. Now, what do you say to this breakdown of law and order?
You see, we have reached a point in the history of our country today when you have political crisis in a state and you involve the courts in it, you are bound to simply escalate the problem, because one court will give its own ruling that goes to the west, another one will give its own ruling that goes to the east. It depends on who goes to the court. The 4 people can go to court and get a judgment that favors them, and then the 27 members can go to court and get a judgment that favors them, and then both of them will appeal before it reaches Supreme Court and judgment is made. It's almost 2 to 3 years, and the whole period which is supposed to have been dedicated to governance and development will be dissipated on matters of political supremacy, battle of supremacy. So I think if this problem actually need to be resolved, it should be 2 ways: addressing the state assembly members, bringing them together to resolve their differences, and then bringing the minister and the governor to also address the problem. From what they have said, the state is actually divided. The loyalists of the minister felt that he brought the governor, he sacrificed a lot of resources and suppressed everyone for the governor to emerge. Well, normally that is how Nigerian political godfathers do. When they have a buffet of contestants, candidates who wants to govern, they pick the one that is submissive, that is loyal, that is planned, that is simply will kowtow to whatever they want. But not knowing that power has its own dynamics. The moment you hand over power to your loyalist, he will also try to reassert himself. And the moment that loyalists try to be independent, then that is where trouble comes. In most of the states, there are some states you have Cold War going on. There are some states with this kind of outright battles. And there are some states that is simply a question of time. Wherever you see peace reigning between a godfather and a godson, it shows that most likely the godson is doing everything that the godfather tells him to do. But any attempt for the godson to assert his independence, then that is where the problem comes. And then he'll be reminded that I made you what you are, I suppressed everyone, I committed resources, and then I made you who you are, and you're supposed to be 100% loyal and submissive to me. So the only qualification for most of them to attain the position of governorship is simply loyalty. And that has always normally turns out negative on the side of the godfather. To me, if you are really for the state, if you really install a governor which you believe is competent, you should give him the free hand to operate. But if you said you're going to control him, well, there's no problem. But if you have an overbearing influence and almost you want to be in every point and every levers of power in the state you want to control, there is going to be a problem, which of course we are witnessing today.
But Senator, with the way things have really escalated, how possible is it that Governor Fubara and former Governor Wike be brought to the dialogue table, as suggested by you?
Well, to me, the president, even inviting them, it shouldn't even be about himself. There are prominent, respectable elders in Niger Delta and in River State. I mean, those who have not taken sides. They need to be invited and then to sit down and address this problem. Because if you don't do that and leave it to this battle, certainly Nigeria's economy will certainly be affected. Because now the politicians are divided. At the very time militants started taking sides, some militants on the side of Wike, others on the side of Sim, you know that this is going to go beyond the issue of politics. And so I think the president should have a powerful committee, which he is going to head, and bring all these two persons together, and then see how the problem can be addressed. I still believe that dialogue can solve the problem. But for now, the war is most likely going to escalate because it is simply on autopilot. And it's either the minister emerging victorious or the governor emerging victorious. And in the process of this war, is the state's economy and the people of the state that will continue to pay the price. At the end of the day, Rivers will be left far behind because the demolition of State House of Assembly, as we have seen, the resignation going on, the crisis in the State Assembly, is simply the foundation of this crisis, but it's going to go bigger if there is no intervention from the outside.